Good morning, everybody. Welcome into the CanesInSight Daily Podcast. I'm Peter Ariz, live from Duffy's Tavern here, the legendary Duffy's Tavern. I was here last night watching Dolphins, Bills. It was absolutely packed. This is the best place to watch games. If you're, obviously, a lot of people are going to be in town for the game this weekend. If you're from out of town, if you've been here before, if you haven't been here before, Duffy's Tavern, home of the Canes, 2108 Southwest 57th Avenue. And we're already getting comments in here about Duffy's. But before we get back to Duffy's, I want to give a huge shout out to Johnny Lagoon. He says, "Good morning from the maternity ward at Baptist. The newest Canes addict was born, Johnny Lagoon Jr. Mom and him are doing well and want Lance Roffers' take on the game." Lance will be joining me here in just a moment to talk about this matchup with the Gators. As you guys can see, I'm solo today. D's going to be doing some more stuff actually here from Duffy's later today, so you'll get to see D in action later today as well. But for now, it's going to be me. It's going to be Lance here talking about the game. I'm pumped up, man. It was, like I said, I was here last night at Duffy's talking to some people. The buzz about this game is obviously it's not what maybe from Florida's point of view, because they haven't had the start of the year that a lot of people expecting them to, but Miami's not taking them lightly. They have approached this game as if it is an undefeated top 5 matchup here. They don't need any extra motivation just because Florida's lost here. So pumped up, man. And I think the Canes, you guys will see my official prediction. We'll get it out later today, but it is 30-14. Sorry, guys, I'm looking at my phone here because I'm trying to get Lance on the show here, so we'll be getting him on here in just a second. But my official prediction is 30-14. And you know what? That was made a couple days ago when I sent the score prediction to Camden Burton, who makes our graphics, and I feel even better now. I'm thinking this could be a 21-28 point win for Miami. That's how I'm feeling this morning. And we'll get a more analytical point of view on it here in just a second when Lance joins me. But bottom line is Miami's got to keep this momentum going. You have 100+ recruits in the building. If you guys did not see it, you guys got to join the Discord. My Discord, I'll drop the link right here, but I dropped a couple nuggets last night. Tank Jones in town again, 5-star committed to Oregon. Miami's making some very good progress there. He was in town for the Notre Dame game. He's now in town here. From my understanding, he's going to be visited next week on Miami's bye. Whoops, I just did not mean to send that. Did not mean to send that link in there. But yeah, I agree here, Josh. You go up early, they'll quit. It'll be a blowout. But in terms of Tank Jones, man, big time 5-star talent out of Mobile, Alabama. Twice down here in a month span. It's pretty interesting that I wouldn't say Oregon letting him take the visits, but the fact that he's actually going through with it tells you there's a real, not only interest there, but Miami's making a push to get this flip done before December. If this thing continues to drag out, I don't know that Miami's going to do it, but I think this thing, in terms of a flip, they're pushing to get this thing done here in the next couple weeks. So to me, if that happens, the outlook on Miami's class, as we're excited right now, it's a top 12, 13 class in the country, but I think the trajectory of it changes. You get him in the class. Nolan Wilson, he's also going to be visiting this week, another 5-star committed to Alabama. So big time moves being made there. Calvin Russell, as we'll get Lance here in just a second, but Calvin Russell, another one that they're working to flip, 5-star, 4-star, 5-star, or whatever services you look at. Wide receiver from Miami Northwestern. Nick Lanier, continue to hear, if he is a possibility to reclassify here, he would be right at the top of Miami's board at wide receiver. So a lot of recruits in town. You gotta continue this momentum. That energy in the stadium's gonna be crazy. The college game day atmosphere, which I'll get to in just a second also, because I think you guys know my thoughts on. I'm not a huge hockey guy, don't love the guest picker there, but we'll get Lance on here right now. As Lance, good morning. How you doing?
Hey, I'm well. How are you guys?
I'm doing well, man. So it's just me. I'm sure you saw the text. Just me this morning, Lance. So I apologize. We're not gonna have D on here to spice things up as always. But how you doing, man? How you feeling?
Yeah, life's good. Life's good. Looking forward to another in-state rivalry game where hopefully the Canes, take care of business. So,
Lance, I didn't get to it in the beginning of the show here, but I kind of just alluded to it now. Thoughts on the guest picker, Matthew Tkachuk?
Yeah, that was an interesting one, right? I don't really know what kind of ties he has to the U. Really, I know he's a Florida hockey player and all that, but I would have chosen some other options if given the choice, but whatever. At this point, all that stuff's just performative at this point. So
yeah, just for the record on here, from what I understand, there were some other people that were probably ahead in the pecking order that weren't readily available this weekend. So unfortunately, I think that had something to do with it. Looks like Lance. There we go. We got Lance back. But Lance, USF last week. Obviously, it's way behind us now at this point. But you posted your article, the Upon Further Review, on CanesInSight. Guys, go check it out. Lance does these every week. It's really a film breakdown from the week before, and always does a great job putting things in perspective. And Lance, it's interesting because you texted D and I earlier this week, and you said, "Hey, this was a C performance for Miami," and they still went out there and got the job done pretty easily.
Yeah, that's not meant to be a criticism, right? It's just that C is kind of an average game, right? If you think about percentiles of a team, right, this is probably their 50th percentile type game, right, where it's just kind of they just went out there, they made some mistakes, they really kind of offered up some opportunities, some that USF took advantage of, and some that I felt like they missed, on their film review itself. I threw in a few little jabs as well about little brother just for fun, but yeah, they had several false starts, which is something that for the most part those are self-inflicted, right? I know Mario was pretty upset about it in the game itself, thinking that maybe South Florida was doing some things to simulate the snap counts, and I even kind of talked about that in the article. Like other teams will do the same things, right? It's something that you control on your own, and I felt like those were self-inflicted. I felt like one of Beck's interceptions was kind of a forced throw under pressure. He really didn't need to do that at all. He had two outlets. I think I even highlighted them. He had Lofton on the sideline, and then I believe he had the running back releasing, where probably the running back should have blocked the guy that was pressuring him. But in that particular case, I felt like that was a forced throw. Something that I really thought Beck was doing in this game was really trying to force the ball a little bit deeper. I don't know if that was the game plan going in. That's one of the things whenever I'm doing a kind of a film review where I don't have the advantage of being in the room, right? And Dawson's not calling me up and saying, well, Lance, we were trying to do this, right? So I have to infer kind of what I see and what the defense is doing a little bit. I felt like even a throw that I believe Tony caught where he kind of threw it off his back foot, kind of floated it a little bit. It was a hell of a throw, right? But it's one of those situations where if the boundary corner, I can't remember if he was a boundary or if he was a corner, but if the corner to that side who was taking the vertical receiver had noticed the throw earlier, that's an easy pick for him, right? And maybe a Florida cornerback or someone of that ilk might see that a little easier and turn that into a turnover. So those are some things where I felt like even when the result is good, maybe the process could have been a little bit better there. And in this game, I noticed that I would say probably 10 times. And when you're talking about a game where there's 60, 65 plays, on offense and probably 70 or so on defense because of USF's pace, you're looking at 7-8% of the time where there were some mistakes, in my opinion, made, and maybe that's a little bit more than what you want to see.
It got a question here from Kyle, who said, Lance, did you find it interesting that Dawson opened up his bag more this past week against USF? We saw some of the, power formations there on the goal line where you had SJ Alafatuli in there at fullback and things of that nature. You just kind of referenced, them kind of getting the ball downfield maybe a little bit more. Is that just a product of it being game 3, guys starting to get more comfortable and get within the system? Or is that just is that showing Florida some stuff? I saw you froze there for a second. I don't know if you heard me.
I did,
Lance.
yeah.
But yeah, is that a product of it just being game 3? Does that have something to do with them wanting to show Florida more to worry about on film? I mean, what did you see there?
Yeah, I can only really answer it like with what my experience in these situations were, in past working with coaches and doing some of those things. Really, you also have to remember Beck, he was here, but he wasn't practicing in spring, right? So a lot of what you're going to be doing in summer, fall camp is basic install, right? You're going to be getting your plays in that Beck wants to do, kind of your staple. And then you're expanding that as the season goes along, right? As you have more time, as you find some of the things that are working, maybe Beck comes to you and says, hey, this is not a play I'm super comfortable with, or this is not my favorite. And maybe you then replace that with some of those other plays. And then it's just like you say, right? There are some things that USF maybe hadn't seen on film that you're wanting to show. Maybe you want to practice some of those things as well. And then you kind of hit on it also. We've got a game up with Florida coming, right? You want Florida to see some of those formations, right? And either spend practice time on it or you're setting up a counter, right? So now Florida's seen it. They saw what you did in the USF game. They're going to determine how they're going to defend that, right? And then that's when you add a wrinkle or a counter off of that. Some of those plays were not my favorite, honestly. I would rather just kind of rely more on some of the basic offense that seem to be working pretty well there. But I know coaches really, they can't help themselves sometimes, right? They want to show you some of the fun things that they have. They want to keep their players happy too. That's another thing, right? When you're talking about
waiting for Lance.
Error. Am I freezing up again?
Yeah, you're back now though.
Sorry about that.
All good.
Yeah, so you kind of also have the portal aspect of things too, right? Where you've got a lot of good players and you want to keep them happy. You want to keep them engaged. And, maybe SJ kind of likes doing the fullback kind of stuff, or maybe some of those other players think that stuff's fun, right? And so when you're up 35-6, you pull some of that fun stuff out. I think it was interesting. To me, it's a little bit of a sign of respect too for USF that maybe we had to install and practice some of these new formations just to make sure that we took care of business.
Defensively, I mean, very sound effort against the team. We talked about, all last week had to tackle well against. I mean, pretty fundamentally sound job on that side of the ball, I would say. I mean, your overall thoughts on that side of the ball from that USF game?
I was super encouraged with what the defense did in this game, in the run game particularly, and in the pass rush discipline. So when you have a running quarterback, one of the things that I always harp on, right, is just the discipline that's required in not only your rush lanes, but something that I was excited about with Heatherman's defense compared to Guidry's defense. And that's not to, throw shade at Guidry or anything along those lines. But oftentimes I found two things were happening with Guidry's defense. We were being out leveraged, which means basically just at the formation setup, we didn't have proper numbers to one side or the other. But the other thing that I saw often was we didn't replace on our edge or contain or force players. And something you see repeatedly in this Miami defense through 3 games is their ability to replace.
Lance coming in and out here. So there he is. He's back.
Yeah, that's frustrating. I'm sorry about that. Yeah, let me know if that's continuing. I look like I've got full network here, but I don't know if you heard me talking about the fact that I really enjoy that they replace on the edges.
Yeah. I heard all that.
Yeah, and you saw it quite often, even on that 4th down play that Byron Brown did the quarterback draw down there, in the red zone, where Keontae Scott kind of dove inside of the tight end and cut off the B gap. You saw Chase Smith replace him on the edge, right, as your force players. So if Byron Brown did kind of kick that and bounce that outside, you haven't lost contain by ducking inside of the tight end there to fill that B gap. You've replaced him. Oftentimes in that alignment, you think, well, Chase Smith's going to come forward, right, and fill the B, and Scott's going to be your force player. But in that particular one, they kicked long-armed inside or skipped a gap inside for Scott and then replaced on the outside. And that's something I see a lot with this defense that I've been really encouraged with, because that just keeps you more sound. Where there are some opportunities, I felt like, was in the explosive pass game. I felt like there were 2 or 3 times where USF had open receivers because we didn't carry a vertical, or because we kind of got maybe confused in who was going to take the 1 and who was going to take the 2 if they went vertical. And then I thought, Byron Brown just missed a couple of throws. And then we had 2 instances where they were a shoestring away from being out the gate, right? To where it's either a touchdown or one of your defensive players has to, hawk him down in the open field. One of them was a Poiser, and really I think there was slipped more than Poiser got his shoestring. And then another one was the one where I kind of criticized Keontae Scott just a little bit for his effort on the play, where he kind of stood and watched a little bit. That receiver almost spun out of that tackle, and if he does, it's a foot race for a touchdown. So some of those things I felt like could be cleaned up a little bit, but the defense overall was quite encouraging to me.
Guys, I appreciate it in the comments. So it's apparently on my end, Lance. So I'm just not even. I'm gonna just let you keep talking if it seems like it's freezing up, because it's only happening on my end. There's no issues for anyone else. So looking at UF here, I mean, yes, not the start that their fans would have hoped for. I think it's really the USF game more than anything, and then the way that Lagway looked last week. Because if you just look at the score of that game, it wouldn't have been the end of the world. But there's obviously some deep issues offensively for them. Defensively, losing Caleb Banks, really a huge loss for them. I think he changes how their defense looks. But from what you've watched with the Gators, Lance, we'll start offensively with them. Yes, they've struggled, but where is the threat there? Understanding still that they have some playmakers on the outside, and Lagway does have the big play ability in his body. We haven't seen necessarily this year, but where would you? I guess don't give too much away, because I don't want you giving them the secrets. But if you were UF, where would you, I guess, try to attack Miami defensively?
Yeah, I kind of talked a little bit about it earlier, right? I'd really be trying to stretch Miami vertically and trying to hit some of those explosives, especially on plays where you have maybe a little bit of a scramble drill with the quarterback. I have felt personally that Lagway either looks injured or sluggish in other ways, where maybe his body's not right. Last year, I saw his ability to make, some of those scramble plays and hit explosive plays downfield quite a bit more than what you've seen thus far. But the fact that we've seen it from him before tells us it's in there, right? And I think if you get one of those games where just a couple of those plays come together, it can really change things. You and I and Danny, we were kind of texting back and forth a little bit, and I just talked about the fact that, absolutely, Miami's the better team, right? But there's variance involved in all of these games, right? And if Florida gets a 90th percentile type game and Miami gets a 30th percentile type game, their 90th can beat our 30th, right? If we both play a 50th percentile, we're going to win. And I say we, I'm talking about Miami, is going to win. I don't play for them. But that's really the way that I'm looking at things. I'm looking at that explosive element. And then the other thing, of course, is to lean on the run game to stay ahead of the chains. I felt like Florida had really gotten themselves into a lot of those 3rd and 8 type situations to where you're a little more limited in your offense. But if you get to 3rd and 4, 3rd and 3, or even avoid them, right? The best third down is the one you avoid, and hit some of that run game with those explosives. Now you've really changed the course of the game. And last year, that's what you saw when Lagway was really playing well. was they were able to stay ahead of the chains with the run game early, and they hit explosives whenever they would get into some of those scramble drill type situations. You haven't seen that this year with them much. And some of that could be, like I say, something going on with Lagway, and some of that could just be, LSU is a heck of a team on the road, right? And for Florida, I really felt like they were the better team than USF. I felt like if you played that game 10 times, Florida probably wins it 8. And that's that variance I'm talking about, where USF just found a way, right, with, 5 or 6 field goals in that game to win. Whereas Florida, they really got bogged down in the red zone. A lot of that is when you get into the red zone, it gets so compressed, right? You need your quarterback to make quick decisions. And I've really felt like Lagway has been slow to process when I've watched him. I don't feel like he's making those quick decisions. And when the windows get compressed and you just have less of a space to operate, he's struggled in those situations. So you really want to continue to see that. You want to see him continue to struggle in the red zone, to where they're kicking field goals rather than touchdowns. You limit the explosives, and I feel like Miami has a large edge, but Florida has some talent.
Yeah, and look at this.
I had to jump in. I see the empty seat. It's so sad seeing that empty seat there at Duffy's. I'll be there in down the right. We're done here. I'm heading straight there. What's up, Lance? How we doing?
I'm well. How are you?
Excellent, man. I had some donuts with dudes for my kids' school. So I had 3 at the same school. So I had to do one, back to back to back. So I wasn't able to go down to Duffy's. I'll be out there right after this, and then through the afternoon into the night probably. I'll be out there at Duffy's. So if you go to Duffy's anytime after the show, you'll see me. Pete stays there. So
hold on before you hop in here. Right before you got in here, I was about to ask Lance the most important question I'm asking everyone this week. Your thoughts on Jaden Baugh as a player, Lance?
Yeah, I think Danny probably undersells him just a little bit. I think he's probably a little bit better than the way maybe Danny. I think he described him as our 3rd best back, I believe is what he said, and maybe even 4th. I like our running backs as well. Don't get me wrong, but I tend to separate a college performer from an NFL potential. So when you're talking about somebody's talent, right, you're probably looking at what do they project into the NFL. Ball's probably more like a 5th round, 6th round type running back for that level. But at the college level, I believe that he's got the strength to kind of fall forward at the college level and really gets maybe 2 yards more than what the run is blocked for. And then I think he's got just enough speed to hit some of those explosives. I mean, when you're averaging 6 yards a carry as an SEC player, you're probably doing something right. So I would take Jaden Baugh on my team. I think he would compete to start for Miami. I don't know that he would win it, but that's what I think of him.
Thank you, Lance.
I'll listen, for the record, because this guy's going to guarantee to run for 200 on us on Saturday just because of all this. Like I said, average ACC back. I mean, I think with Lyle has more juice as a bigger back as well, and I just think Fletcher is just bigger. Like the physical presence of Fletcher is so unique because Baugh's big too, but I think Fletcher just gives you a little bit more of that pure power, the blocking, all that other stuff. So I'd put him 3rd in that pecking order. But we'll see. I mean, Lyle hasn't done anything really yet. Baugh's done a lot more than Lyle. So we'll see. We'll see if Lyle plays tomorrow and what he does. But Lyle's probably more projection than anything. Marty Brown, I mean, you gave him, if you said Baugh or Marty Brown, I wouldn't push back, but I love Marty. But I think Lyle with his juice as also a 200-plus pounder, and then Fletcher in the big back model, I just think does a little more kind of on the all-around game. Plus, I got to denigrate a Gator. I can't, people are talking about this guy like he's Herschel Walker, Bo Jackson, Adrian Peterson, and it's just a little much for me.
The problem is for me is obviously I want Miami to hold him to negative yards on the ground, but whatever, if he has like a 20-30 yard game, everyone's going to be in the comments after the game telling me how I was wrong and all that. So I obviously don't want him to do well in this game, but I already know what's going to come with it once Miami hopefully locks him down.
y'all didn't have me on before the Notre Dame game, but see, that's where I would have pushed back a little bit. I think Love's a little overrated personally. I think Love is very explosive and athletic, but I don't want my guy out there jumping all the time, right? I want my guy like breaking tackles and staying moving forward. I felt like Notre Dame's second running back was better than Love. Honestly, I really like Prince, I believe is his name, from Notre Dame, because he's like a little bowling ball. And so like, that's where I push back on this conversation that I've been listening to, is that, Ball's not at Love's level. I say Ball's maybe not at Price's level. I really liked him a lot when I watched him play and what I've seen from him subsequently. And I feel like Love's a little overrated personally. So.
Yeah, no, Love's an interesting one. He has a weird style. He's pretty tough though. I mean, I like Love. I think he's good, but he is doing the Super Mario jump over button.
Hold on a second.
Too much.
Hold on a second. I just got the official score predictions here.
Let's see.
We haven't released yet. And D, I'm shocked, man. Let me just tell you guys, D thinks it's going to be a barn burner, man.
I'm worried. If they get a good start, they're going to be locked in. Lagway, the career match. Lance, did you watch wrestling when you were younger?
No.
Yeah, you were doing important stuff with your life, doing math, doing sports. Pete didn't either. So I know in the comments you guys know what I'm talking about. They used to have career matches, right? So someone would have their career on the line in the match. They never actually would retire if they lost. They would come back like with a different gimmick or something a month later. They'd have to leave. So Lagway to me is a career match. To him, this is like his career. It's not really his career, but he's looking at it like, man, it's now or never. They're going to, if I have 2 bad games in a row, they're going to put me from the good column to the bad column, and it's going to be hard to switch. So I think he's going to have just a different level of locked in. And I think he has it in him to actually execute and lock in and make. And if I'm the Gators, Lance, tell me what you think about this. I mean, I am bombing away. I don't understand why. I know some of this what the defense is dictating to them, but why is Lagway playing the game like, a dink and dunker? That's not his strength whatsoever.
Yeah, we kind of actually touched on that a little bit before you jumped on the call. That's the way that I would attack Miami if I were, Lagway and Florida in this game. And I did kind of touch on the fact that last year you saw his ability, in those scramble drills and maybe some of those off script plays to really be able to attack you vertically. This year, it looks like he's trying to process or trying to show, maybe that he can play a different style as well. And he just looks like he's thinking rather than, just playing the game as an athlete and doing those kinds of things. I absolutely agree that, when you get some of these proud football players, and athletes and things like that, and you kind of tell them that they suck for, 2 weeks and they hear about how great the team you're getting ready to play is, that a lot of times you see some outcomes that are maybe a little different than what you want. And some of those games can be a little bit different. Every game is different, right? There's all kinds of like outcomes for each play that can happen. You hear about game of inches and things like that. And if one of those goes the other way in some of these games where they didn't look good, the whole thing changes and maybe you get that inch to go against you in these kinds of games and things like that. So yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. But I want to circle back just real quick, Danny. Do you know that wrestling is scripted? Like, that like they say these things ahead of time, right? So
hey, Lance, did you watch the musical Hamilton?
I've seen Hamilton, yes.
You know that in the Constitutional Convention, they weren't breaking out into battle raps, right? That's not how that whole thing went down.
Okay, so that is true.
So it's entertainment here. It's entertainment in the free state of Florida. It is the highest form of entertainment. It was actually an essential business during COVID in our tech. Oh, in Missouri, that used to be one of the strongholds. Shout out to Harley Race and everybody out there. So that used to be a stronghold itself. So you're kind of out of touch with your culture.
I'm definitely out of touch with culture with my wrestling. Sorry about that.
So yeah, man. So Lance, one thing that I hope you didn't touch on this before I jumped on, but you've talked about in your write-ups and just offline, the linebacker room, the addition, the length in the linebacker room, the mature body types, got older guys. I know you talked about Chase Smith as well. Just kind of like that room, you watch it closely. It's very big in your breakdowns always. So what do you see in that room, just both from a body type standpoint and just how they're playing in this scheme?
Yeah, you really are seeing slowly, but before your eyes, changing to the guard right now, where BUZZN is seeing some competition for his snaps, right? With Chase Smith, some of his ability with his length and explosiveness right now is really showing up on film. You saw several plays in that USF game where just his physical gifts were able to make the difference in a play, where I talked about some of those, game of inches, right? And we had a couple of plays where Chase Smith either got his hand on something that would have been a touchdown behind him on the pass that he tipped. And then on that halfback pass where, he used his length to really just discourage the throw. And that turned into a large tackle for loss. But even on another play where he had a swing, he was able to just barely grasp with fingertips, where maybe a typical physical skill individual doesn't make that play. I also have really enjoyed the way that they've cleaned up their technique as far as flowing into gaps as plays are unfolding, right? You've always got a place to be as a linebacker. And that's why I focus so much on them on those breakdowns, right? Because you maybe don't see that whenever you're just watching a game where, okay, well, this is actually the linebacker's fault, right? Because of XYZ reason. And, Teray has really impacted the game with his ability to go forward. He maybe not be an elite coverage player moving backwards, but going forward, he impacts the game in so many different ways. I think his physicality has really showed up on tape as well, where maybe in the past few years, we haven't really had anyone who thumps, at the linebacker spot. And I feel like Teray has kind of filled that role. I also think Jacoby Thomas has helped fill that a little bit as a strong safety, who kind of drops down and plays a little bit of linebacker. He plays a lot of dime linebacker in this scheme. You'll even see him as the Mike, as the dime right now, getting people lined up, which is amazing for a player who's only been here, maybe 6 months or however long he's been. But those have been big impacts. And then I feel like you've seen some level up in, BUZZN and some of our younger players, especially number 10, Aguirre, has really kind of allowed them to have a rotation. You're seeing so much more of a rotation on the defense this year than what you saw last year. And some of that could just be trust, right? And some of the physical skills have been leveled up. But I think Chase Smith just finally looks healthy too.
Yeah, I want to ask you this just because you did a breakdown. You really watched the Bethune game closely, and this is somewhat off topic, but we're talking about linebackers. Kellen Wiley, I know he's a young guy. He's kind of a wild man out there, as young linebackers tend to be. But man, he's around the ball constantly. And when we see like linebackers, it's kind of like running back. It's one of those positions where I think we overrate development. And like the first impression with those guys typically is a pretty important one. At least from what I've seen with some of the good linebackers we've had, they didn't take too long to bake. They got better, but they were kind of always around the ball from day one. Do you see Wiley as a guy that could play, maybe not tomorrow on defense, but by the middle of the season as like a guy on our defense?
I think something we've talked about in the past really is like with the wide receivers, right? It's so much more of a nuanced position and instincts position. And if a wide receiver doesn't produce in high school, you don't see them become stars at the college level very often. And same with college, if they don't produce, they're not typically going to be an NFL star. It's happened, but it's rare, right? I see things, and my research kind of bears out. It's very similar with linebackers, right? Linebackers typically see the game and understand the game in a way that they're going to be productive and they're going to, make the most of their gifts, or they don't. Right. You can kind of think of like those 6'5", 210 wide receivers who can, jump out of the gym, and they don't ever really produce at the college level. And it's because they don't understand the nuances and they don't really, set up and be in the right place. It's the same with linebackers. You see, explosive, athletic guys all the time that, get to the college level and don't produce because they don't see it. They're not in the right place. And then you've got, the Zach Thomases of the world who just kind of like see it one step ahead of times. for me, I'm going somewhere with that. I want my players to be around the ball, just like you talked about. I want them to be productive at every level. I want them to be impactful as soon as they like step on the field, right? And I also really want them to be impactful on special teams. You know, for me, my research has found that, you know, linebackers and defensive players in particular that go on to be All-Americans were very productive special teams if they didn't start as freshmen. And so, you know, Wiley, you're seeing a lot of those signs that he can be that kind of player moving in the future. You know, maybe he's a little undisciplined, I guess you could say, in the way that he attacks right now. But he's certainly not timid. And I would much rather have a player that I've got to kind of like tone down the aggression rather than try and ratchet it up. And for me, I see a lot of signs that Wiley can be an impact guy next year.
Guys, I just had the legendary Steve Kim walk into Duffy's here with Jerry Campos and crew. So that's why I was dapping up over here. We got legends in the building here at Duffy's Tavern, as always.
Yeah, tell him I said hello. I love Steve.
Will do.
Wait, so Lance, question from Peter. Peter Boy is just asking about the stadium playlist being updated. I know you're in Missouri. When was the last time you were down here? I saw you Florida State a couple of years ago, and then last year you came down for which one?
Oh gosh, I forget what I came down for last year, but
The win.
Yeah, finally.
What's on your playlist, either stadium or otherwise? I've never even talked about music. I don't know where you're at.
You know what? You really put me on the spot there. I don't know that I have anything on my plot. I just want something that I can dance to and feel good to. You know what I mean? Like if it's got a vibe and it's got a beat, I'm cool. I love energy, so I can get down with just about anything as long as it's got kind of good vibes to it. You know, anytime anyone's doing their job and doing the best they can, I don't want to run them down. You know what I mean?
What a class act.
Is it definitely my style? Maybe not, but you know, he's doing his best, and anything that can make me move and get me dancing a little bit, I'm going to be all right with.
What a class act here. So, just again, looking at this matchup, the way Florida plays on offense, do you see them? Because they threw so much last game in a way that is bizarre to me. Given that they are not the better team here. I don't know if their coaches, how they see it, but certainly I would say most people are going to say they're not the better team at any spot, really. Do you see them slowing down the game and trying to make this a more variable situation? And you being such a numbers guy for the layperson, like myself, that's not as number savvy, why is that such a good strategy for the inferior team to sort of run the ball more and eat more clock than the Gators did, for example, against LSU?
Yeah, you can look at it from like a variance standpoint, right? If you are talking about, and I'll just use big numbers, right? If you're talking about 1 million plays, one play has a small impact on that, right? You get into a game, now you're talking about 70 plays, right? That one play has less of an impact than it did on that million, right? But now let's condense that even more, right? So Florida this year has done a great job of controlling the ball, controlling the clock. I do believe that they're very high in like time of possession, which is not an overly impactful stat in and of itself. But what that means, right, is you're condensing the opportunities for your opponent, right, which then increases the value of each individual play. So just think of it that way, right? If you've got 50 plays instead of 75, now you've got 150th of the impact instead of 175th. And so in that particular situation, 25 into 50, it's 50%, right? So you can be it can be a force multiplier on the impact of each of those plays, right? And now what you're looking for is some of those variance plays to go your way, right? So if I'm making 2-3 of those deep shots, those explosive plays that I'm hoping for, now, when you hit one of those, the impact of it on the game is just a force multiplier whenever you slow down the game, right? And that's what you're really looking to do whenever you may be the lesser talented team, right? And if you're the more talented team, you want more of those plays. You want to spread that out more. You want to reduce the impact of anything good that happens to them. Whereas, like, on Miami, you fumble the ball, right? You have a bad snap. You have a bad field goal snap. You drop a ball. now the impact of those is magnified because you just get fewer opportunities.
Yeah, and use the word force multiplier. I want to get to this. This is nerding out a little bit, but I've thought about this because I look at something like Carson Beck and this offensive line. So you have a veteran quarterback who is 22. I said he was 23. Someone corrected me and said he's 22, but he's old. Certainly played a lot of football and is cerebral to begin with. Then you have a elite pass protecting offensive line. And I think when we analyze this before the season, sometimes we kind of say like, all right, well, it's good to have a great pass blocking offensive line. It's great to have a veteran quarterback who can who can go through a defense. But we don't look at it kind of in tandem to say, well, the combination of the elite pass blocking line and the guy like Carson Beck, who has all the answers to the test, not only are those two good things together, but it could be exponentially better than someone else because you have the combination, the quarterback who has what he needs in terms of time can capitalize on it in a pretty unique way. So like when you're breaking down teams, I know you look at a game different than a lot of people, and particularly with your statistical background, like things like that. Should we focus more on like, hey, this could be not just two good things together, but a force multiplier and a really, really explosive combination?
I think you talk about it all the time, right? Where you talk about, well, why would Carson Beck come to Miami? Why would Cam Ward come to Miami and play for what some people call, a Mario Cristobal, who's more of like the run, plotter type. And it's exactly what you talk about, right? I'm going to put you behind this offensive line that's going to allow you to stand back there and drink a Coke, right? I mean, how many times are we talking about that perfect, U shape where the quarterback's just standing there with no one within several yards of him? If you're a pocket passer who has the ability to read a defense like you're talking about, the numbers that you can put up that then are going to translate into your draft spot are just really, as you say, a force multiplier, right? You just have the ability to go from, a 0.1 EPA per pass play type quarterback to 0.2.5, 0.3, start looking at those Joe Burrow senior year type seasons where you go from, a second round pick to number 1 overall type pick. And that's exactly what Carson Beck has the opportunity to do this year. He doesn't have a Justin Jefferson maybe, but, he's definitely got, weapons that I think are more explosive and are more productive than maybe you would have thought in August.
It's funny because you got a TBD, right, who is like a rhythm quarterback. He likes to, see it and throw it. And you put him behind the great offensive line, and it really actually didn't make a big difference. He didn't capitalize. Like, he had just as much time as these other guys with his offensive line. TBD did in 2023. And it didn't matter because for him, he wants to just see it and throw. And it was more the system than the offensive line for him. So it's just interesting from a team organization standpoint, putting it all together that, like, it's not just 1 + 1. There's combination to this thing. But
I had a question. Well, I had a comment. I don't know if you caught this earlier this week, Lance, but Dawson, when he was doing his press conference, he made a couple comments that you can tell he reads the comments online or hears the things that the fans say. Because first he said, hey, because we have this comment here from Ralph asking why he doesn't use the tight ends. He went out of his way to say, look, there was 5 or 6 plays in particular, they were the primary target. They could have gotten the ball. The play was called for them, and the ball just didn't go to them. So you could tell he was like going out of his way to be like, hey, there was a bunch of plays I called for the tight end specifically. It didn't, work out. But that, and then the fact that he was talking about, hey, you guys say I only call the inside runs, and we were running it to the outside with Carson. So, I mean, did you see that with the tight ends? Like, do you see them trying to actively get them involved and they just didn't get the ball, or anything you saw there?
Yeah, they definitely were making more of an effort to involve them either as a mesh read, which is just kind of a staple play in air raid. If you think of, like, it's basically just 2 crossers that are going opposite directions who are trying to create kind of a natural pick and confusion. If you got man, you're trying to create that natural pick. If you've got zone under, you're trying to create the confusion, right? How far do I carry him before I pass him off to the next? Things along those lines. I think our first touchdown was off of mesh where we threw it to the running back, I believe, who was coming across. And the other read in that was a tight end, right? So if he had chosen, he could have gone to the tight end, right? Or if, let's say, the coverage releases him like they did the running back in this particular play, the touchdown probably goes to a tight end there instead of to, Brown, who I believe is who caught that. Always call me out if I get that wrong, because I do a lot of these off memory, but I do believe it was to Brown off mesh that, got one of their touchdown passes. I think the other thing that comes with that, and I just try and be honest and call it the way I see it. The tight ends haven't played overly great this year, right? They haven't played as well as they played last year. I felt like, you earn your targets through, your blocking, your consistency, being where you're supposed to be. On one of Beck's interceptions, I highlighted Lofton's wide open on the sideline, right? If you dump it off to him, you probably got 8 to 10 yards on that play. He just didn't, Beck wanted to push it further down, right? And a guy made a heck of a play on it. I mean, the interception that the USF guy made was very good. It was not like a last night with Tua throwing it right to the linebacker, to break everybody's hearts, right? This was an actual awesome play that the USF guy made on that, and he was pressured, right? So I think you've got a couple of things at play there. The tight ends have not played as well as they played last year. I think Beck is making a concerted effort to push the ball more downfield than what these tight ends are currently being asked to do, where they're being asked to be more in the intermediate targets. And Elijah Arroyo is not somebody who comes around every year as a tight end for you. His explosive ability, his vertical ability as a tight end is rare and not something that I really see with the individuals on this team. I think Lofton's more of your run after the catch, more type H-back type. I think Bauman's more of your red zone, high point the ball or, kind of sneak out types. And then you got two true freshmen, right? Who are just trying to find their way. And I think both of them are talented, but I don't think they're quite ready yet. And neither one of them have shown to be that vertical seam threat that Arroyo was. So I think you've kind of got like a whole lot of ingredients that are coming together to hold them down just a little bit. And I think that it would be a larger criticism if we didn't have wide receivers who are balling out and making plays, right? It's hard to critique Beck for, hitting a 30-yard explosive rather than hitting the 9-yard tight end stick route, right? So.
Question from Lord Baconton here, or he's talking about a comment, but I want to ask you about it. He says, I respect Florida's defense, but the toughest D-line Miami will see is its own. Iron sharpens iron every time. I agree with that. But just Florida's defense in general, Lance, the stats have been good. Caleb Banks is somebody that, I wasn't impressed with him when we played him. I heard some off the field stuff. He was just kind of like, one of these guys you have to motivate. But he certainly looked good against LSU last week. Not going to be there this week. When you look at Florida's defense, the production's been pretty good. I don't know the underlying stats are that good, actually, when you actually look at like their pass rush and some of their yards per carry against and stuff, but they're not allowing touchdowns. I can't figure out. I know the sample size is too small to really look at the numbers too strong, considering the teams that they're playing. But I can't. I don't know what to make of this Florida defense without Caleb Banks and just kind of where they stack. How do you see Florida's defense?
Yeah, they really seem to be more of an envelope type defense, right? They're really trying to keep everything kind of like in front. They're trying to prevent some of those explosives. With USF in particular, that's always got to be kind of the thing that you're trying to, you're trying to contain their run game and prevent their explosives, right? Because that's their whole offense, right? They space you out, they run the horizontal screen game, and they run their power run with their quarterback run game, and then they hit you with explosives. That's like their whole offense. So whenever you play that offense, you're gonna run a little bit different of a defense. And then LSU's offense has been pretty putrid this year, quite honestly. And the way that I see Florida in particular is I see them more of a pinch defense who wants to, control the run game and prevent the explosives. And that's exactly what you're really seeing whenever you analyze their data, right? They pinch you in the red zone. They've done a great job of preventing you from getting into the end zone whenever you do get there. They do give up some yards between the 20s, but they really want to shut you down once you get into the red zone. I don't believe that they really have that athleticism on the edge to just like kind of just line up and beat you, as far as pressure goes. So I think they've tried to manufacture pressure just a little bit with either some mug fronts or some nickel blitzes, like from your either corner or safety off the nickel, and trying to insert him into the pressure package as well. Caleb Banks is kind of a big loss for them, because where has Miami, and I don't want to say struggled, but when you have seen them lose, where they've lost the most frequently has been at left guard, really.
Yeah, boy.
Yeah. And I wasn't going to call him out by name, but, he's done a great job in the run game. I feel like he's struggled a little bit in the pass game. I feel like he's really been, kind of beaten and given up some quick pressures at that left guard spot a little bit. I think, honestly, Samson has outplayed him. I'd like to see them move a little bit more that direction. But without that, you kind of miss that like physical talent who can just beat you, with a first step, either power or quickness. And that guy has both, which is why he's, an NFL draft prospect, even if he hasn't fully lived up to it at the college level, in my opinion.
Yeah, kind of a flash player, but
yeah, like a Leonard Taylor type, where had a lot of talent, but you just didn't always see him play in, play out to his talent level. I kind of feel like that's where Banks has really been, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's a great comp. I want to pull this up here before I forget. This just came off Instagram here. Pete, check this out. There's a place I know that you near and dear to your heart there, Lance. It is Mark Light. Check that out. This is from GM, your boy down there at the University of Miami baseball program, posting the McAfee jersey, the baseball jersey. So Miami is the center of the college sports universe this week, which if we win, it's a great thing because it's an infomercial. If we lose, it's going to be, frustrating given all the energy is getting pumped in. But that's the thing I worry about, which I know is not necessarily how you break it down, because you focus so much on what's happening on the tape and the numbers and everything else. But yeah, the intangible things are not so much on our side, more so on their side. I don't think we're not going to be ready, but if these guys get up on us, I worry about like the getting tight, right? Like, hey man, we're supposed to win this game and we're down 10-0 early because we turned it over and they had a nice drive. You know what I mean? Like that, and then we get tight. That's kind of the concern, but I guess that's the benefit of having a veteran team like Miami has. Real quick, Heatherman's defense, you did a huge breakdown of it before the season.
Yep.
Now having seen a few games, anything different than what you thought, or has it been pretty much as expected?
I think the overall foundation of it has been what you would expect. I do believe they've been more 4 down than I expected, right? I even think I called out, Mario before the season saying, well, this is more of a 3 down with a stand. They've been primarily a 4 down front. They've just use the same techniques, a lot of the same Roscoe techniques, rush outside, contain, a lot of the same creepers opposite the running back. They've inserted the nickel into the fit. They've, inserted the nickel into a 5-man pressure. They've dropped, your low safety into the run fit, especially with Jacoby Thomas, who, like I say, has played a lot of dime linebacker. So they've done a lot of the things that I expected. I do think they've probably played a lot more man press than, they played at Minnesota, maybe because they just have a little more talent on the outside, though Minnesota had 2 NFL cornerbacks on last year's team. One of them's a practice squad guy, but the other one was like a 3rd-round pick, Justin Wally. So they did have talent on that Minnesota secondary. And then, they had the safety, the Kai something who, will probably be an NFL guy here in a few years. So they had talent on that team. But I think they're playing a little bit more press with the jam than I anticipated in film study. But overall, I think the mechanics of it have been about what you would have expected, and I think the results have matched.
Yeah, it's definitely fun to watch, see these guys get after it, and just the way they play. I mean, it's like I hate saying stuff like this because it sounds so superficial, but just the way it sounds. I mean, we had no tone setters on defense last year at all. That's how it felt, especially with Bain out. It's just we did not have that physical presence. And then bringing Jacoby Thomas in, who you mentioned playing some dime, also playing safety, that hit on Barry. And you highlighted that in your breakdown, if I recall. Just let's got to pull that up because that was a great shot. You were so dead on when you broke it down and under further review or upon further review. where you showed. Let me just pull up your article here, where you showed the hit. He could have easily gotten a targeting on that play. Yep. And really changed the momentum. And the guy made the pass anyways, but I think getting tackled like that on a clean hit, here, I got it right here, that took him out a little bit. I don't know if he was the same after that play, not because he was concussed or anything. He got the wind taken right out of him right there.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things, right? That, and I even say it there, those hits add up over the course of a game, right? I think that's something that you do a great job of highlighting in these pods a lot of times, is just talking about, the tone setters and the physicality and really being what you're trying to do with that is just establish that this is the type of hit you're going to get every time. You might complete the pass, and he actually did complete that pass. As a heck of a throw. I'll give him lots of credit for that. But if you are continuing to clean hit, have that physicality on the offensive line, if you're always looking for work and you're destroying the defensive tackles, ribs, things like that, right? We're humans. After that's happened 2-3 times, we start to think about that happening that fourth time, that fifth time. And what happens then is, maybe I'm an inch off, maybe I'm 2 inches late now. And that's the difference between those plays, right? And if you look at the 80s and the 90s and the early 2000s, those Canes teams, yes, they were known for being brash, and yes, people, love to hate them, but they were also known for their physicality. Every single one of those teams, they did not back down from a fight, and they did not back down from physicality. And I think that's the key difference between this year's team and last year's. Also, Bane being healthy is that's a force multiplier, as I like to say. He kind of makes everything go whenever he's been the way he's been. And, he's freed up Mesidor on the other side to just kind of be an edge player now. He doesn't have to be, the nose tackle with Blay coming in, or the 3-tech with Moten stepping up and some of the young guys, And so I think they've just been able to unlock everybody's abilities a little bit more with some of the portal additions that they've brought in, and Heatherman has done a good job, in my view, maybe better than what we've had in a couple of the failed DCs that we've had, and even Blake Baker, who you would maybe say is a failed DC here, who's doing an awesome job at LSU and did a great job at Mizzou, right? I think the difference was he just really struggled to find some of those pieces to make a cohesive unit defensively, and rather than a bunch of good individual pieces. And I think the way that the secondary and some of these pieces that they brought in late fit the defense just frees everyone else up to do the role that they should have been done.
Love it. Here, go ahead, Pete. So Lord Baconton asking, as of now, would you say Miami has a top 5 receiving core in college football? I wouldn't say that. I mean, there's some really good ones. They got some work to do. I would say off the top of my head, obviously Ohio State. You put them right there at the top. Auburn, even though their passing game is not at that level, Singleton and Coleman, those are some pretty talented guys, and they got some depth. Texas A&M, they're playing pretty good.
Texas A&M's got 2 dudes out there that are, just ballers. I love it when fans get excited and ask questions like that, right? Because 3 months ago we were asking, do we have enough to even be, ACC champs at the wide receiver spots, right? Who's going to step up? What are we going to do to replace all these players? And now we're asking if we got top 5. So I love that. I love that. But right now, what I would say is that offensive wide receiver room is further ahead than I expected. I would now say they're good enough, to compete for championships. They're good enough to compete in the playoffs. And I feel like, they got a chance to be upper echelon, and that's about as far as I would go.
Money's on Miami, it seems like. Apparently, according to I'm just going off what the chat's saying, that the line's moved 2 points, now minus 9.5 on DraftKings. One thing I wonder about, Lance, is, and I've talked, because I you'll see my prediction. I think I was like 31-28. This game worries me. I'm scarred from Virginia Tech last year and seeing Kyron Drones morph into Cam Newton when he's playing against his cousin Cam Ward. It just kind of, those intangible things concern me because I do think Lagway has it in him to at least keep his team in the game if he's playing the game of his life, which he could potentially do. Their offensive line is good enough to give him a chance. But with the line moving like this, one thing I've heard from former players, not my former Canes, former Gator players, just former athletes talking on these shows, and then hearing it from people that are more in the 7-on-7 world that are around some of these kids, there's a lot of, hey, this team could quit with the way the portal is, with the way NIL is. It's a little easier to just shut it down. Now, I think back to last year where Florida had a chance to quit and they actually rallied and played well. My view is they probably had that experience fresh in their mind, so they're less likely to just quit when they already kind of defied expectations once. We thought Napier was gone last year when they were going into that hard schedule. But that is out there. So I don't know how you see sort of the intangibles of this game with a team like Florida with all the negative energy around them.
Yeah, I'll tell you the way that I see it, I fully understand where you're talking about, right? Where players have pride. These guys, a lot of these guys grew up together. They've known each other for years. No one wants to hear how much you suck, all the time like this, right? But I think the key difference this year to last year is last year they had Lagway coming, right? So like the players, they had that like, well, Lagway's coming. And then when he did come, they rallied around him. He made some play. I didn't think he was that great last year either, quite frankly, when I watched him on film. But, he made some of those splash plays, and I feel like they eked out a couple of games to keep that belief. This year, the difference could be if we get on them pretty quick. I think, they are hearing the things. You are super concerned about this game, and I'm concerned about every game. That's just the way I am wired, right? It's the next game that I'm really worried about because, that's a road game. They've been, looking for revenge, that kind of thing. This one, I think Miami is going to control the game. I think, frankly, they're just too talented on the lines. I don't think Florida has the schematic advantage that maybe some of the Florida State scheme can offer up into a game to muddy it up. I think what it comes down to for Florida to win this, it's going to have to be exactly what you talk about. It's going to have to be drones morphing into Cam Newton and playing a game that he hasn't put on tape in 10 months for them to have a chance to win this game, frankly.
Someone's calling a DJ layaway. I got to – here's one thing I'm noticing, Lance, as I'm pulling up the schedule. This is, I think that, look, this is a hard schedule, just the way it's laid out. I know it's not an SEC slate, but just the kind of the order of it and the way it's presented with the two buys back to back, and you have tough out of conference, all that. But I'm looking at the schedule, including this week, with Caleb Banks out. As we roll through Florida, Florida State, Louisville, Stanford, SMU, Syracuse, NC State, Virginia Tech, Pittsburgh. Is there a good pass rusher on this list? I'm just thinking, I don't know. I mean, I haven't seen all of these teams in action this year, but as I'm looking at it, I don't know if any of these teams have a good pass rusher. Last year, Florida's, Tyreek Sapp, I guess you would say maybe has a chance. Their pass rush has been bad. I think Caleb Banks is the one we missed. Florida State, they don't really have any proven pass rushers. Louisville lost Gelati, who was a great pass rusher. Stanford lost that kid Bailey, who went to Texas Tech, who was a great pass rusher. SMU lost Roberts and Harvey and Hunt and all those guys who were really productive for him. Syracuse lost Fadil Diggs, who was a good player for the Texas A&M transfer. Tech lost APR and Peebles. Pittsburgh, they always kind of cook guys up, and I don't know, who they have at the moment. I'm not sure there's a good pass rusher on this list for a team that, you have to affect Carson Beck in order to disrupt this offense. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, but I'm looking at this list. That hadn't occurred to me until we're talking about right now, because I'm thinking like, all right, who's going to cause us problems rushing? I guess Tyreek Sapp this week is the best pass rusher left on the schedule.
I mean, you're going to have physical talent. You're going to have players who have the physical ability to do it. You're right. There isn't anyone left on the schedule who has demonstrated that they, have the results to do that. I think in a one-game sample, you can have players, that can do that. And maybe you can scheme up some pressures. But, I mean, what it boils down to is I think all the things we're talking about, right, is Miami should be favored in every game they have for the rest of the season, other than maybe that Florida State game. So you just have to go out and take care of business, right? You know, you've got the talent, you've got the depth. You're not playing Georgia, you know, in any of these games. And if you just look at games on paper, yes, Miami's got the advantage at pass rusher, as you kind of talk about, right? And on this other side of the ball, what offensive line has the advantage against Miami's defensive line the rest of the year as well?
Right.
So I think you can flip it both ways that way. And if you believe that football is won on the line of scrimmage like I do, you know, I'm just old school that way. I believe that's where it's won. And you add the quarterback. I see no reason that Miami can't or shouldn't win every single game on their schedule. And we'll be talking about it as it goes along, right? And let's hope that that's what ends up, right? That they come undefeated. And I do think they'll beat Florida this week.
Yeah, this is it right here from 904. This is to me, this is if I'm picking Miami, which of course I am, but in terms of feeling comfortable, this is where it is right here. Worst quarterback pressure rate in Power 4, Beck highest completion percentage. Dr. Beck's about to perform surgery. So we've had you for a long time. I want to let you go get back to your real job, to your family, everything else.
Yeah.
But final thoughts on this game, which I know you think Miami's going to win, but just where we're at here, 3 games in and heading into Florida.
Yeah, I think this is another chance to make a statement, right? You've got game day, you've got a night game at the Rock, you've got Florida. If it were, let's say, just, a good mid-tier P4 team coming in, I probably would be a little more worried about the letdown factor and the look ahead to, Florida State in a few weeks. But this is Florida, guys. We hate the Gators, and they hate us. So there's going to be no shortage of energy. I think that Miami is going to bring everything they've got. I think they've got a recruiting weekend that sets up to be what you guys are calling one of the best you've seen, right? I'm not a recruiting guy, but that's what I'm hearing. I think there's going to be juice from that. I think the fans are going to be fired up for the Gator. You got Gator tears on the CanesInSight with 7.5 million posts and counting.
I got it. Yes, sir.
So Gator tears, we're going to fire that up this weekend. After the game's over, we're going to hear all the whining and crying, and go Canes.
I love it. Appreciate you, Lance. The Hurricane Vision on Twitter, Lance Roffers on CanesInSight upon further review. I keep reviewing these things. Upon further review with Lance Roffers. Appreciate you. You're the man.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me, guys. Take care.
Thank you, Lance. Yeah, sorry there. I don't know what's been happening with my connection, kind of going in and out there.
You're good, man. So no, we're fired up here. Chat's rolling, almost 1,000 on. Like I said, I'm going to Duffy's now. It's packed house, right? A lot of boosters rolling in.
Yeah, a lot of people back here now, so it's looking like a lively crowd already at Duffy's.
Yeah, man, it's always lively at Duffy's. By the way, you might have missed my read in the beginning, so I gotta bring it in. Anajar and Levine, accident attorneys. If you or someone you care about is injured in an accident, you could be entitled significant compensation. Dial 1-800-747-FREE, 1-800-747-3733. Take back control of your life with Anajar and Levine. Pete's going to have his jersey retired at Duffy's. He's there so often. You got to get your soccer jersey out there.
Yeah.
Josh Gross asking, any thoughts on guest picker? Yeah, I think it's fine. I think it's fine. My only concern is that the students don't really have a connection to Chuck because they're not from South Florida. A lot of the students, if they like hockey at all, they probably like the Devils or the Islanders or something like that, given the demographics of UM students. So, that part might be a little off with the people there cheering for him. But there's a lot of South Florida people. Obviously, he's a champ. Everybody loves him down here, and I get it. It's pretty cool with the Chuck at the Florida Panthers. What do you think, Pete?
I'm trying to be as nice as I can about it, but it's a pretty shameful pick, in my opinion. Yeah, I said it in the beginning. It kind of irks me that they did that, but I know it's not really in the school's control. I just think it's a missed opportunity, man, to showcase one of your alums, someone who has ties. There's no ties to Miami. The video he put out yesterday sounded like he was reading off of ChatGPT. I don't agree with the pick. I don't think that it was a good one whatsoever. I think it was a crazy pick, but again, that doesn't really matter for the game.
Yeah, we should. I mean, we all wanted Danny Ramirez. You know, I mean, again, this Danny Ramirez would have been out there talking about recruiting rankings and stuff. I mean, that guy's dialed in on top of being an A-list Hollywood celebrity. So
My
maybe,
choice, as Scuba Steve's asking me, who my choice would have been, Jimmy Johnson. I just think that, from what I understand, I think the Fox thing.
Yeah.
You know, he's retired. That was the issue, but that would have been a no brainer to me. I just think
Dana White had a conflict.
Yeah, I
could
heard
have been him, but it was
people
a
had conflicts,
issue.
but D, man, you got so many people down here that you could choose from. They obviously wanted to go away from like a former player.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Lord Bagington saying we haven't played an A game this year. What do you think that looks like? I mean, hopefully it looks like when we play Florida State in 2020, which is one of those blowouts at home against one of our rivals. I don't know if that's the case. You know, but we'll see. We'll see. Bleed Orange says game day usually never picks forward players, to be fair. 305 Shaman asking what sections of Bella Danger in this week. She's tailgating at the Yellow Lot. So shout out. She's locked in. I saw her. She's locked into the Canes this week. She liked the pick. Her analysis was you got a winner with the Chuck. So bringing a winning mentality. What else we got going on here? Gold Jackets. Yeah, I don't think they have the former players in there.
Yeah, I mean, I think I feel like Tebow did it once for Florida, but maybe that was because he was on the SEC network or whatever.
Yep. Listen, the Chuck takes some hits. You know, he's beat up pretty good and he recovers. And if you want to recover your game, you know what to call University of Miami Sports Medicine Institute. If you consider yourself an athlete like Pete in the goal, on defense, doing what he does, or just an active person like myself, you probably know how hard it is to sit on the injured list with pain or injury. Maybe you try to come back early, hack your own rehab, take some shortcuts. But if you don't want to compromise your movement or performance, you want to be full strength, call the experts at the University of Miami Sports Medicine Institute, whether it's a league competition on Miami sideline, everyday movement, you and me. University of Miami Sports Medicine Institute is the trusted choice for those who demand excellence. Set an appointment today at uhealthsports.com.
I do have Phil saying they need to bring the cup. I've been told the cup will not be there. It's in New York or something this weekend. Ooh. So sorry to break that news.
That is a bummer. Yeah, we could have used that the cup there. Let's see what else we got going on here in the chat. Udonis Haslam.
That would have been a funny one. That would have been a good one because
I thought it was a
fan.
So I got a shout out to someone gave me the scoop. Someone gave me a list of attributes of the picker without saying the name because they couldn't tell me who the name was, and it was either to Chuck or Haslam. He's like, he's a winner, he's tough, he's a champion, liked locally, not as popular out of the local area. So I thought he was either to Chuck or Haslam, but yeah, they went with the Chuck. That makes more sense. He just won the Stanley Cup back to back, and then him and McAfee are boys. So someone mentioned a point to me that I thought was very accurate. Your boy Fonzie, who was saying that the point is to have like a viral moment. And like McAfee and Chuck are going to like take a chug or something like that to kind of get this thing juiced up. So if they're doing that, and as long as they're wearing orange and green, and it'll at least be viral in the right way for the Canes. That's all I'm saying. And look, if you want to play sports games, whether it's hockey, soccer, all the different games you play on your phone, puzzle games, RPGs, straight gambling games, solitaire, you name it, they got it on KashKick.com. That is KashKick, one of the top 5 lifestyle apps on the planet. Over 4.5 average rating in the App Store, 1.5 million plus downloads. This is a legit operation. And not only does it organize all these games, so you can just scroll through. Even UP, who's not a gamer, you'll find something you like down here scrolling through these apps because there's something for everyone. But on top of that,
who said I'm not a gamer?
You're a gamer? I didn't know. I thought you were just only NCAA and FIFA.
That's gaming, man.
Well, I know. Okay. Well, I mean, like, you're not out here playing RPGs and stuff, but for whatever type of game you like to play, you can find it on KashKick.com and the app KashKick, the KashKick app, KashKick. And the best part is, while you're playing these games, Farmville, you know all these games. While you're playing them, you make extra money on the side. Not going to be your day job, but it's extra money just for doing something you do anyways, which is play games to kill the time. All in one place. Very reputable app. Top 5 lifestyle app on the planet. KashKick.com. KashKick.
I thought about it when I was talking about it with someone yesterday too, but I would have put Pat Riley up there.
Oh, now we're there.
Over the guy they chose. I mean, it's upsetting, man. 0 ties to the school. Again, go watch that video. He did not know this game was happening this weekend. But you can watch the video and tell me. He was reading off a ChatGPT script. Terrible.
D Wade, yeah. Loft perf, missed opportunity not getting Oscar Isaac, in my opinion. No, Danny Ramirez over Oscar Isaac all day. Although my band opened up for Oscar Isaac's band back in high school. They were the older kids. He's like a few years older than me. We're the young guys. His band was called the Blinking Underdogs. They're like a ska band. So little trivia right there. Yeah, Hero. I didn't know Hero was hurt. Out for the beginning of the year. Ugh. No, Pete's got no comment on that one.
You're going in and out. I can.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, how am I finding the chat
well,
here?
It's on my end. It's not. This is something we dealt with earlier. It was freezing for me, but it was fine for the audience. So if I'm not answering you right away, it's because it's.
You're good. You're good. Bleed Orange said The Rock went to game day to promote Colorado, supporting Prime or Miami. I mean, with the guy like The Rock, I think it's all scheduling. The schedule just kind of got to line up. That guy's got a pretty busy slate. But look, we're talking game day. Get the game day T-shirt at the Miami Hurricane Team Store, MiamiHTS.com. Right there across the street from the University of Miami. If you want to go in person next to the Thesis Hotel, use promo code INSIGHT20, get 20% off your first item. Look at that right there. You don't even have to, there's no guest picker on the shirt. So whatever you think of the guest picker doesn't matter. You get the shirt you represent at MiamiHTS.com. Promo code INSIGHT20. Philip says Rock and Danny are filming allegedly. I was talking to Danny yesterday. I think he was ready to rock. We got to get.
I think he would have made himself available.
Yeah, he would have. This guy's as hardcore as anyone in this chat. He's keeping up with 2027 recruiting. So we gotta get him involved. By the time we come back next year, he'll be even higher up on the totem pole in Hollywood. So hopefully we're good. Wasn't Drake here what was Drake here to film that video? Was that during the 2017 season? Remember that video, Pete? Oh, you can't even hear me. Yeah. Anyways.
What? I hear you now.
Yeah, that Drake. When did Drake do that video here?
That was like 2019. I want to say 2019.
Left Perf said my band played with the Blinking Underdogs. We might have been in the same show. Left Perf. We used to play at Oxygen, which I guess was the Chili Pepper before. I don't even know what it is now. Small world. Shout out to Left Perf and his boys. All right, Pete. Are you sticking around there? I'm heading over there right now to Duffy's.
I gotta go home real quick to get everything for the show out. But I'm gonna come back after. Yeah.
All right, man. I will see you out there. I'm heading there now. Appreciate everybody's support. Over 1,000 on. Like and subscribe to the show. Go Canes.
Go Canes.